So again, welcome to those who may have joined in the midst of our first presentation with Pharmacy Innovation 1. We're excited to move on to team number 2 presenting their work from this semester. And as I hand over the reins to both Nate and Albert, I wanted to recognize how challenging this process is for all teams, much less teams who not only select to grow their own idea, and something I'll look forward to hearing about in the presentation, but the amount of work that went into finding the mentorship and the users were made almost more difficult or more challenging when pursuing an idea on their own. So I wanted to recognize the great work of Nathan and Albert. And as we look to wrap their presentation, I'll again share that link of feedback from the audience. Nate, Albert, are you guys ready to take over?
We sure are.
All yours.
All right, well, welcome everybody. My name is Nate and this is my colleague Albert, and we're presenting our product Solair, which is a medicinal cannabis app. So what is our problem? Well, with medical marijuana being a developing industry, there's many problems that have been identified. There seems to be inaccurate record keeping within the dispensaries. There's poor education with new and existing patients, which can make seeking therapy and administration techniques quite a bit of a challenge. And there's also the inconvenience of patient journals. And this is primarily focused on when a pharmacist wants to counsel with a patient, there isn't an electronic record at the pharmacist's disposal. Instead, any information about the patient's usage comes from conversation with the patient by word of mouth or through their own paper journal. So our job to be done is to connect patients with medical marijuana resources. Our app is focused on having easy access to digital journaling, which is accompanied by direct pharmacist support, strain selection, and also increasing education for the patients. And we'll go into how we tackle each of these issues. So first, we reached out to a few professionals within the industry. Our first interview was Dr. Biggie. He's a physician from Erie, PA, and works within a dispensary and certification accrediting services for patients looking to qualify. Some of the biggest takeaways that we had with this interview is that new users don't really have an idea of where to begin. There's many options that can be overwhelming for the patients, and this can lead to poor selection and a lot of trial and error therapy. Collaborating with a pharmacist isn't always utilized, and that education is not always enough to increase their health outcomes. So then we also reached out to a pharmacist. He's a recent graduate of the University of Pittsburgh. And a lot of what we learned with him is that he has experience developing applications for medicinal cannabis as well. So he had a lot of experience to explain to us. Some of his takeaways was that there are a lot of products out on the market, but they're difficult to sell because a lot of them don't haven't distinguished themselves from anything else to really stand out. So his word of advice to us is that if we want to create a product, we have to have something unique that dispensaries and patients would want to use. So how can we reach out to patients? Well, we used Reddit to engage with 30 current medical cannabis users. And a lot of what they don't want in our app is that they want no communication with their physicians due to stigma and worries that their doctors will try and talk them out of seeking therapy. And they don't want our simple journaling app. What they did suggest is that an algorithm that could better recommend strains for their conditions, whether that be different content of cannabinoids, what is the best administration techniques, and et cetera. So with that, we went to the drawing board and decided to come up with an algorithm. So for our product, our solution is focused on convenience, choice, and collaboration. Here's a quick demo.
Here's a quick demo of our newest prototype. The first section is exploration. It corresponds with the word choice. Within it, the goal is to have a fully functional algorithm.
Excuse us, do you guys hear the video sound?
I hear it coming through on iron.
Okay.
Patients can filter out different strains based on their own characteristics. For example, a patient wants to try different dosage forms. We could click on the dosage forms tab, and there is information on what formulations exist and what conditions they're typically used for. We can filter out by disease state and have different strains and information on the cannabinoid and terpene content. And also we can have a picture and more information about this particular strain. For convenient record keeping, we would like to partner with dispensaries in the future and allow consumers to directly have real-time information on what strains are available in the dispensary and keep an easy-to-read medical marijuana journal. Lastly, collaboration. We would like an option for patients to have the ability to connect with a dispensary pharmacist so patients can easily learn about their medical marijuana use. Here's a
So for the strain algorithm, we will first have the patient conduct a brief survey through an app that's focused on their previous therapies and then the diseases to be alleviated, so we have an idea of their starting point. Then the algorithm will attempt to compile up-to-date recommendations, such as displaying cannabinoid and terpene content, effects, and different contraindications. And we hope to have the ability to pull from the dispensary menu and then have availability and pricing. So why would anyone use this? On the dispensary side, we want the patient to feel more connected to that specific dispensary, so they'll go back to that one. Other dispensaries won't have this app, and there's more patient visit will equal more money. On the patient side, we want them to control their own health with easier browsing and documentation of their own therapies, and possibly new access to coupons and promos so it can save money. And for future direction, our main issue right now is we need to partner with dispensaries to allow easy communication with pharmacists. And we want to build in messaging system on board so there's a conversation between the patient and the pharmacist. And our strain algorithm right now, it's just some simple tabs. It's not an actual complete algorithm where there's many disease states where the patient can easily access the educational material. But we do have a proof of concept website prototype that was made and shown in the video. And if you guys would like to try this prototype, here's the link to the website. We'll throw this link into the chat for everyone to test out as well. Other than that, that's our presentation, and we thank you all for your time.
Again, excellent and well done in having to balance a lot that you're working towards when it comes to the challenges and opportunities in the field. Thank you for sharing that link in the chat. And for our audience, of course, our learners, for peer reviews, but also our companies and colleagues across the university and across the country, please feel free to use that link provided in the chat, the bit.ly link, to provide feedback to Nathan and Albert. I'll share, Nate and Albert, one of the unique challenges in this group, especially when it comes to products, is really understanding user needs, having to balance what prescribers and pharmacies are dealing with alongside the varied needs of the users. Can you share some insight about what user-driven decisions you made in developing something like the site to help understand why you structured it in the way that you did, or what information you gave? What were some of the influences on making those decisions?
Sure. Well, along with what our app started off to be was just basic journaling application that also had that communication factor where the patient has easy access directly to the pharmacist, and the pharmacist has easy access to the patient's digital journal. As we mentioned with our conversation with Dr. Katz, is we have to have something that's more unique to distinguish ourselves from a lot of the other applications that are out there, whether that's journaling for medical cannabis or even just writing a daily journal or a sleep journal. We had to have something that really gripped dispensaries and users. So being able to go to Reddit with an online platform where people of various backgrounds across the state can easily just send us messages and have conversations with us. That's when we really figured out that they don't want just another journaling app. They want something that actually is useful and can bring them closer with the pharmacist and dispensary. And then that's when we also heard that a therapy algorithm would be something that hasn't always really been done. Some of the limitations that we have with that is because the industry is so new and research on pinpointing actual specific recommendations isn't quite up to date, but there is research out there for now. As more and more is invested over the years, we can continue to update our algorithms. That way it is accurate and it also helps patients have more of a control about their health care.
Excellent. Again, I'll certainly open up the opportunity for anyone in our audience to share questions, either via chat, or if you want to raise your hand or unmute yourself, whatever would be most comfortable. One of the things that I wanted to at least share back to Nathan and Albert, not only did you choose a unique topic and a challenge in developing your own idea, but the emphasis on having to talk to users when you don't have a built-in group or don't have a built-in opportunity makes it that much more challenging. In times before now, there's the level of a startup where you have your product at kind of a coffee shop stage where you would sit in a coffee shop and turn to the table next to you and say, hey, I'm working on this thing. Can you use it and tell me what your experience is like? It's not quite the circumstances we find ourselves in today, but it's an incredible challenge personally. How do you feel talking to strangers, having them point out flaws in front of your face, and taking it back to meaningfully learn and engage and take it to that next step? The fact that you're able to connect with users and potential patients who would be working with the solution online and engage them to get that feedback is commendable. So on top of everything else, I wanted to say well done in finding that opportunity to connect with those users. And before I turn back to one last round of either questions or refer back to the link for audiences to share their feedback, I wanted to let Caleb know that he'll be up next for our presentations. So one last round of questions or comments from our audience for Solair and Nathan and Albert. All right, thank you both. With that,